Hello and good evening, everyone. I hope you people are doing well. This is Lokman Rafiq here. Welcome you all to the performance management session. So, in today's session, what we shall be discussing is we will be going through the performance management syllabus, and we will be going through one or two of the topics that are part and parcel of this specific performance management syllabus. Before I proceed, let me discuss with you people, let me guide with you people. To me, this performance management paper is the most technical paper of the whole fundamental levels. Because if you start from this F5, F6, F7, F8, F9, so amongst all of these papers, the papers F5 to F9, the most trickiest paper is basically this F5, which is the performance management paper. The most trickiest paper is this F5, which is the performance management paper. Now, what is it about this specific paper that makes it a trickier paper to pass? What is it about this paper that makes it a difficult paper to pass? So let me tell you that a lot of students think that this is going to be a pure computational paper, but unfortunately, this is not how it is. It's more of an application based paper with approximately 45% of the paper being a theoretical paper. So my past experience is that a lot of students, when they fail this performance management examination, the major reason for them failing this specific examination is that they are weak in the MCQs. The MCQs that are examined, the theoretical portions of the MCQs that are examined, that is one of those areas which is unfortunately badly dealt with by these students. So when I talk about the performance management, let me guide you this thing about performance management, that unfortunately the biggest drawback, the biggest problem that arises with respect to the students is that the students are unable to handle the MCQs in this specific paper. Now, moving forward, I have in front of me the syllabus guide and the study guide, which is relevant for examination from September 2020 to June 2021 examination session. So the guide which is going to be applicable into the next session is also available on the ACCA website. Not much of a difference in that specific guide also. But right now, this is what I am going to be discussing, the guide which talks about the relevant attempts. Now, this is the ACCA qualification structure in front of you. And as you could see, that you have at this specific applied knowledge level, this management accounting paper. This management accounting paper is linked to the performance management paper. I repeat, this management accounting is linked to the performance management paper. So whatever the knowledge that you have obtained at this level, whatever understanding that you have obtained or developed at this level, this is all going to be applied at the PM level also. This is all going to be applicable at this specific level also. Now, if I talk to you, if I discuss about this examination of the performance management, so you could see that this is what the relational diagram produced by the ACCA is. It talks about the management accounting paper. It talks about the performance management, and this performance management is then linked to the SBL and the APM. So the performance management is linked to the SBL and the APM. So what does this? What does this mean? This means that at this specific management accounting F2 level paper, all that you have studied is the costing techniques. You have studied the management accounting concepts. And now what happens is at this specific performance management, they become advanced. And at the APM level, they become extra advanced. This is how the things are. So if I talk about these different levels, which is the F2, F5, and at the same time P5, so this is what the different levels of the qualification are. This is how things actually go about. Now, let me move a bit forward. Let me start discussing further. So first of all, we have in front of you that how this specific syllabus is examined, that what exactly is the approach to examination of the syllabus. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through that. What is the examination approach? I will take you through one of the examination paper available on the ACCA website also, so that you people can have an idea that how exactly do they examine this PM paper. The syllabus of this PM is split into three sections: Section A, Section B, and the Section C. When you talk about Section A, it says it comprises of 15 objective test questions. Remember, they are no more MCQs. They are now OTQs. Now, what has actually happened that the ACCA has changed the name of them from the MCQs to the OTQs. The one of the major reason for the change in the name is that because it's no more like select from either of A, B, C, D. You can now get select any two. You can now get fill in the blanks. You can now get a different method like drag and drop. So different type of questions are actually examined nowadays. And because of this, ACCA cancelled the terminology of MCQ. And rather what ACCA did was ACCA now focuses upon the OTQs. That's what the terminology that the ACCA uses, which is the OTQ. Now, let's move a bit forward. Let's discuss further. The next thing is there's this section A, which is 15 OTQs. Each OTQ is of 2 marks each. So that means 15 multiplied by 2 makes it 30 marks. So are these OTQs going to be examined from a specific part of the paper? No. So are they going to be examined out of a specific part of the paper? The answer is no. So what is it actually going to be examined from? It's going to be examined from the whole syllabus. So it's actually going to be the complete syllabus that you need to keep in mind in order to cover up this specific section A of the syllabus. The next part of this question is the section B. And what happens is in the section B, you've got 3 case style questions, which is you've got 3 case OTQs. Let me explain to you what happens is there are 3 case OTQs. What do you mean by 3 case OTQs? So the 3 case OTQs actually mean that you come across a case study, and along with that case study, 5 OTQs are available. So for each of the case study, 5 OTQs are available. So 5 multiplied by 2 gives you 10 marks. That is what the section B of the paper is. I repeat, this is what the section B of the paper is going to be. Okay, now what next is there? The next situation is, so you would come across 3 case OTQs and 3 case OTQ questions. Each case OTQ will have 5 questions. So this is how it is going to be. 5 into 2 makes it 10 marks each question, and 3 into 10 gives you 30 mark question. Now, so you've got section A, which is about 30 mark. You've got section B, which is also about 30 mark. And now when we talk about this section C, so let's talk and let's discuss about section C. That what exactly do you mean by section C? So when you talk about section C, it's 2 into 20 gives you 40 marks. I repeat, it's 2 into 20 gives you 40 marks. Now what exactly do you mean by this 2 into 20? What type of questions are there? So the questions could be either a word processing question, or the question um, could be a question based on a spreadsheet. I repeat, a question could be word processing. This specific question could be a spreadsheet based question. This is how things could be. Now, there's something that I need to tell you, that for this specific part of the syllabus, Examiner has already told you the areas that he would use. So it's actually three areas: decision making techniques, budgeting, and control, and performance measurement. So these are the three areas. One of them is decision making, the other section is the budgeting and control, and the third one of them is performance management. Now, what exactly are these three areas? Let's talk and let's discuss about it. Before I proceed further, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you people through to the ACCA website, where what you could do is that you could review the performance management paper method of examination and can get a better idea that how this paper is examined. So I've opened up the ACCA website, and on this specific ACCA website, there's this performance management section. Under the performance management section, you could see the pass rate of this paper, that what are the pass rate of the paper over a period of time. This is something that you could actually see here, that the pass rate of the paper. So what I'm going to do right now is I'll be focusing upon the specimen examination. I'll start off the specimen exam. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'll open up one of the full specimen exam. So when you'll open up the full specimen exam, you will go on to a specific website. This specific website is for the purposes of, I mean, like, it's a third party website, which is a Pearson's website. Who is Pearson? Pearson is the organization that is providing the examination, online examination software solutions to the ACCA. So I've gone on to this Pearson website. These are the instructions that are available. I'm going to click next. A similar type of structure is shown to you in the examination. I've got this second page. You could see that there are more things which are to be read. If I'm going to click next, it will not move forward. It would say that you have not scrolled the whole screen. You should go through the whole screen. This is just because to make sure that you don't miss out anything which is not visible on your screen. Again, this next slide, which is for the exam instructions again, and then another slide which is for the exam instructions again. Then what actually happens is next it says that we have got the specific exam, and it actually gives you a direction of what I told you people, that it's going to be 15 OTQ questions, each worth 2 marks each. Then there's going to be 3 objective test case study questions, which is going to be 10 marks each question. And then what would happen is you would have these 2 constructed response questions, each with a 20 mark each. Now it says all questions are compulsory, and then what happens is if I move a bit forward, it's now asking me, are you ready to begin the examination? So if I'm going to say yes, the timer will start. Okay, so you see this is what it is, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to move on to the next. So we are now on to this section A. This is the examination window that you have. This explain answer, it's not going to appear in the exam, but this calculator, it's going to appear in the examination. You would see this calculator. You could change its mode from a standard, you could change it modes to scientific. You can go for both types of calculator. There's a scratch pad. What is this scratch pad for? The scratch pad is for your rough workings. That whatever rough workings that you might actually want to do, you can actually do it here. You can write down your note takings here. So this is what this scratch pad is going to be for. The next thing is you could see this. It tells you that which question are you on right now. It's question number 1 out of question number 34. Then what happens is you've got this flag for review. So like for example, if you are not comfortable with how this question could be answered, you may flag it so that you remember at a later date that you have not attempted it. This is the help or the formula sheet. What is this help or formula sheet? So in every examination, examiner gives you certain formula sheet. Now, what is this formula sheet? So you could see with this F5 or the PM examination, this is the standard formula sheet that is available. So in case if you are to use this formula of learning curve or for the demand curve, etc., these formula are already available in the examination. So you don't have to remember them. You don't have to recall them. You could just go into the examination. You could just go and open up the examination window and you could find these formula. Now what happens is, let's say if I am not too sure what do I need to do this with this question, I've left it. It's a simple MCQ based question. I'll move on to the next question. And you see this is a fill in the blank question. Now a very important thing with respect to this fill in the blank is that you see it says that what is the target cost of product X to 2 decimal places. That means examiner is asking the answer to 2 decimal places. If I say 25.5, the answer will be wrong. If I say 25.50, answer will be correct. If my answer is 24 and if I write 24, my answer is going to be incorrect. What do I need to do? I need to write 24.00 because till the time I don't do it this way, the answer is not going to be correct. The next thing is, so we have seen that there was one MCQ, there was one fill in the blanks. This is again fill in the blanks. I'm just flagging it for review at a later time. Then you move a bit forward and you see the next question. So with respect to this next question, it's not an MCQ. You have to choose 2 out of these 4. So let's say you choose this and this and this. So you just have to make sure that you choose 2. You don't choose 3. You choose 2. Now, this is another type of question which is about the drop down. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to just mention over here that what are the different types of questions that could be examined. So one of them is basically the MCQ. The other one of them is the drop down. The third one of them is the fill in the blanks. Another one of them is the multiple answers. Another one of them is going to be multiple answers. Then what else is there? So this is what we have. Then I'm just doing this flag, or you could probably select it, select the relevant one. I've gone through it. Then it's actually a drag and drop. Now, what is this drag and drop? It's like you put this here, you put this here, you put this here. You need to match it with these specific things. So it's a drag and drop thing, which is called. So basically another type of question, because that's the major reason it's not termed as MCQ, it's termed as objective test question. Why? Because they are different type of questions that exist. So it's a drag and drop scenario. Okay, it is not allowing me to move till the time I have seen the whole question. Now, this is another one of them is, this is a tree and it's asking us that you need to mark which branch of the tree is correct. So maybe I mark it here, maybe I mark it here, maybe I mark it here, maybe I mark it here. Since there could only be one single answer, that's why if I'm marking at one place, it's getting unmarked to another place. So it could be termed as highlighting or marking. That is what it could be termed as. Now, let's move a bit forward and discuss further. The next is, again, it's a drag and drop thing. So this is what it is. So these are the different type of objective test question that you would come across. Now, what am I going to do? I'll use this navigator. This navigator is directly going to take me to relevant question. And I want to go on to the section B. What do I need to do? I want to go on to the section B to see what is written in section number B. So I've jumped to section number B. And when I've jumped to section number B, what I could see here in section number B is that it's giving me the guidance that I need to follow. I'll press next over here. Okay, this is a case study that is available. This is a case study that is available. What I could do is that I could drag this window like this. I could drag this window back to here. And depending upon the way I need to read the answer to the question, I'll drag the window accordingly. So I can drag the window here and there. Once I drag the windows here and there, so this is basically a case that is available. You could choose the relevant MCQ. You could choose the relevant answer. So this is the first OTQ available for this specific case. Now, what next is there? The next situation is the case remains the same. I repeat, the case remains the same. But now here what happens is the answers, the question actually changes. So I repeat, the case remains the same, but the question actually changes. Then you move on to the third question. Again, the case remains the same, but the question changes. Then for the fourth one, the case again changes. The case remains the same, the question changes. And then what happens is, this is the fifth question of this specific case. If I flag this again, I move a bit forward. And if I flag this again, I move a bit forward, you see the question has changed now. So it's again the same thing, the scenario has changed, and this specific scenario will have 5 OTQs. What I'm doing right now is I'm now moving on to section number C. I repeat, what am I doing right now? I'm moving on to section number C. I'm moving on to section number C. So if I move on to this section number C, you could see the instructions here. Okay, now what you have in front of you is basically section C. And when we talk about the section C, what happens with respect to section C is that the instructions are available. You could see the instructions. There are going to be 2 questions. Each question is going to be worth 2 marks. If I go on, you see there are going to be 2 questions. One of them is going to be word processing question, and the other one of them is going to be spreadsheet based question. So you see, this is again the scenario, and the requirements are mentioned here. And you see, this is actually the spreadsheet document that is available. So what you could do from the exam perspective is that you could actually, you need to write down the answer here. What do you need to do? You need to write down the answer here. So if you need to write down the answer here, this is the spreadsheet that you would be using. Now, is it a same spreadsheet as the Excel sheet? The answer is no. It's not the same spreadsheet as the Excel sheet. The reason being that the Excel has got a lot of formulas, but this specific spreadsheet, unfortunately, it does not have many formulas available. So it's actually going to be limited that you would have to be using. That is that this is what you would be using. There are going to be limitations with respect to the multiple formulas that are available in Excel. They won't be available here. I'll move a bit forward, and this is now another question, and you could see that here the requirements to this specific question are basically word processing requirement. This is the first requirement, worth 9 marks. So you need to write down the answer in a word processing document. Again, does it have the same function as Microsoft Word? The answer is no. Why? Because it's not Microsoft Word that's used. It's the word processing document. Then you've got another question which is worth 14 marks. So you would again be writing down things over here, and you would be writing down the answer to the examiner over here. In fact, this is next question, which is the word processing question. This previous question was basically part and parcel of, the previous requirement was part and parcel of the previous question that we were going through, part 1 of which was a spreadsheet question. So this is how the question is going to be. And then what would happen is, from the examination perspective, when you will be done with the paper, so you would go forward next, and the examiner would ask you that whether you want to actually submit the paper for review or for paper for checking. So you would then be giving an option that whether yes, you want to go ahead with checking of the paper or not. So this is how this PM examination would be available to you. And this is the same approach that is used by the examiner for F5, F6, F7, and F9. F8 is a bit different, but the rest of the paper are the same approach that the examiner adopts. So if anyone has got any questions up till now, please let me know, or else I'm going to move a bit forward. What I've done right now is I have reviewed the one of the ACCA specimen examinations, and the idea and the objective of reviewing this ACCA specimen examination was that I wanted you to go through that how the paper are examined. Okay, we now have in front of us this performance management syllabus. And what I'm going to do is I will actually be guiding you through this specific syllabus, that what exactly are the things that are covered up in the syllabus. You could see there are 5 sections, which is section A, B, C, D, and E. The section C questions will be examined from section C, D, and E. I repeat, the section C questions will be examined from section C, D, and E. Okay, now see. So basically what happens is the syllabus area A, B, C, and D, and E. So the syllabus area C, D, and E are those areas from which section C examination questions are examined. I'm going to move a bit forward, and I'm going to discuss each and every area in detail so that I can discuss with you people that how this area could be examined. So if I talk about this section A of the syllabus, this section A of the syllabus actually tells you that it's more or less about the information technology, about the way the information is presented across the organization, or the way the information is captured. So if I could just give you a brief summary about this section A of the syllabus, so let me guide you that what is this section A of the syllabus all about. So when we talk about the section A, it is majorly about the information, how it is presented, how it is analyzed. These are the major things that are covered up in section A. You do know this thing that this paper is performance management. And if I could just describe this performance management in simple terms, so I can tell you that performance management means you need to ensure that your organizations, so I repeat, when we talk about performance management, what do we mean by performance management? The performance management means that your organization's objectives are achieved. What do we mean by this? This means that your organization's objectives are achieved. So when we talk about the organization's objectives are achieved, let's try to understand, let's try to discuss. The major objective of every profit organization, profit oriented organization, is the shareholder wealth maximization. I repeat, the major objective of every single organization is the shareholder wealth maximization. What exactly do you mean by the shareholder wealth maximization? This is that the profits are enhanced. Resultingly, what happens is the share price increases, and the share price increases, so automatically the wealth of the shareholder also increases. So if I could just talk about it, I can tell you, I can guide you that the major objective is that the major objective is um, that the shareholder wealth maximization has to be done. Now, how do we go about with the shareholder wealth maximization? So if I have to go about with the shareholder wealth maximization, this would actually mean that every single thing of my organization has to perform well, whether that is my production department, whether that is my procurement department, whether that is my sales department, whether that is my distribution department, whether that is my HR, whether that is my finance function, etc., etc., etc. Every single department has to perform well. So in case if every single department has to perform well, so what do we need to do? What do we need to make sure? We need to make sure that if every specific organization's department has to perform well, I repeat, if every specific organization department has to perform well, so if you have to achieve, if you have to make sure that the shareholders' wealth is maximized. So for you to be able to maximize the shareholder wealth, what do you need to make sure? You need to make sure that every single aspect of your organization works well. Whether that is production department, whether that is procurement, whether that is sales, whether that is distribution, whether it's HR, whether that is finance, etc., etc. And for all of this to perform well, information plays a key role. I repeat that for all of this to perform well, the information plays a key role. So if the information plays a key role, so what exactly do you mean by this? This would actually mean that the way the information is gathered, I repeat, the way the information is gathered, the way the information is processed, the way the information is aggregated, all of these things need to be considered. All of these things are important. So when we talk about this part A of the syllabus, which is about the information technology system for organizational performance, what it tells us is that what are the ways of managing the information, what are the sources from which the information could be generated, and what are what are the information systems that could be implemented and how the data could be analyzed in any specific organization. That is what is going to be covered up in part A of the syllabus. So is everyone okay till now? If anyone having any questions, let me know. The next is there is part B of the syllabus, and if you could go on to review this part B of the syllabus, you would see that part B of the syllabus is about a specialized cost and management accounting techniques. Part B is about the specialized cost and management accounting technique. Now, what exactly do you mean by a specialized cost and management accounting technique? The specialized cost and management accounting technique actually means what? This means it's activity-based costing. There's this target costing, life cycle costing, throughput costing, environmental costing. If you could just recall a bit from the management accounting, I repeat, if you could just recall a bit from the management accounting, so you would remember that there is a section in the management accounting. I repeat, there is the section in the management accounting paper, and under that specific section of the management accounting paper, there is an overview of these specific five techniques. I repeat, there is an overview of these five techniques. Now, here at this PM level, what actually happens is that these five techniques are examined in detail. These five techniques are examined in detail. One thing is confirmed about these techniques, and that is basically that one thing is confirmed about these technique, that is that they're not going to be part and parcel of section C of the syllabus. They'll be tested either as part of section A or they'll be part as section B. This is what is actually going to happen. So now let's move a bit forward. Now, what exactly are these 5 techniques: the activity-based costing, target costing, life cycle, throughput, etc., etc. So let me explain to you people. You see, the old the old cost accounting techniques, the old cost accounting techniques that we had been studying had been what? The old cost accounting techniques have been the absorption costing and the marginal costing. I repeat, the old cost accounting technique that we have been discussing is the absorption costing and the marginal costing. But what happens is, a very important part of the costing is that when you allocate, when you establish the cost of a product, or when you establish the cost of a service, then what actually happens is that, I repeat, whenever you establish the cost of a product or you establish the cost of a service, so what generally happens is that you determine your price on the basis of cost. I repeat, what you do is that you determine your price on the basis of cost. And in case if your costing technique is outdated, if your costing technique is not up to date, what would mean is that this would actually mean that unfortunately unfortunately the cost that you would calculate would be incorrect. And if the price would be incorrect, so ultimately what would happen is you would become incompetitive in the market. I would repeat, you would become incompetitive in the market. So it's very important for you to remain competitive that your costing should be good. For you to remain competitive in the market, it's important that your costing should be good. Now, if your costing should be good, so what does this mean? This would actually mean that, I repeat, in case if your costing has to be good, what does this mean? This means that you need to have the modern costing techniques in place in order to establish your cost. I repeat, you need to have the modern cost accounting techniques in place in order to establish your cost. So this is specific section, which is basically the specialized cost and management accounting techniques section. What does it cover up? It covers up all the modern cost accounting techniques like activity-based costing. It covers up the target costing, covers up life cycle, throughput, environmental. What are these cost accounting techniques? They are the modern day cost accounting techniques, which which are used as an alternate. I repeat, these are the modern day cost accounting techniques, and these techniques are used as an alternate to the absorption and the marginal costing techniques. So this is what the section B of the syllabus is. Again, it's going to be part and parcel of the OTQs. It's not going to be examined. It's not going to be examined as part and parcel of a full-fledged constructed response question. It's not going to be full-fledged constructed response questions. Now, the next thing is about the decision making. The next thing is about decision making technique. What do I mean by this decision making technique? So if I talk to you people about this decision making technique, let me guide you. Let me guide you with respect to it. What happens is, every specific organization, I repeat, every specific organization in its day-to-day life, in its day-to-day matters, in its day-to-day operations, it has to make certain decisions. What it has to do is that it has to make certain decisions. Now, if it has to do certain decisions, so how those decisions would be taken? I repeat, how those decisions would be taken, that's a question mark. So basically what happens is, this specific decision making technique section, what it actually does is it actually tells you that how decisions should be taken. It guides you what the concept of relevant cost is, that is the costs that need to be considered while taking a decision. It talks about the CVP analysis, the cost volume profit analysis, which is another important area, which is again part and parcel of the decision making. The limiting factor, the factors which restrict your organization's operations, the pricing decisions, that how you should be pricing your product, whether those pricing should be cost related, whether those pricing should be market related, etc., etc. Then other decisions, and also how would you incorporate the risk and uncertainty in your decision making. So when we'd be talking about this decision making area, we would be going through all of this, which is that how the decision making would be done in a day-to-day life. I repeat, how the decision making would be done in a day-to-day life of an entity, in the day-to-day operations of an entity. That is something that we would be covering. Now, the next part of this syllabus is the budgeting and control. Now, what do you mean by this budgeting and control? So you do have an idea that when we talk about the budget, so what is budget? A budget is your future plan. A budget is your future plan expressed in financial terms. I repeat, what do you mean by budget? A budget is your future plan, which is expressed in financial terms. That is what the budget is. So when we talk about this budgeting and control, this specific section tells you that how an organization establishes its budget. I repeat, this specific section tells you that how an organization establishes its budget. And the next thing that it is actually going to tell you is that what are the quantitative aspects of the budget that you need to keep in mind. That is the certain aspects of the calculations that we need to keep in mind while applying budgeting in an organization. And then this specific area covers up the variances, because it's actually part and parcel of the control aspect of the budget, that since the budgets are used for the control purposes also. So how do we use the budgets for the control purposes? So I repeat, the budgets are used for the control purposes like this, that what happens is you set the budget, and you measure the performance of the entity against the budget, and on the basis of this you establish variances. So when you establish variances on the basis of this, so resultingly what happens is the variance analysis is also becomes part and parcel of budgeting. And again, a very important section from the purposes of the exam. Lastly, there's this performance measurement and control. And I believe that this is one of those areas where the students struggle a lot. Now, what is this specific area? So you see what happens is you can measure an organization performance using financial performance indicator. You can measure an organization's performance using non-financial performance indicators. So how would we be measuring the organization's performance using financial, non-financial performance indicators? How we would be evaluating the performance? All of these things would be covered up here. How we would be evaluating the performance. So that is also going to be another important aspect that we would cover up here. So in this specific section, we would actually understand how the performance of an organization is measured and then evaluated, and then how the improvements are brought about in the performance of an organization. So this is something that we would be discussing over here in the section E of the syllabus. So um, to sum up, I can tell you, I can guide you that the performance management paper, what is it actually made up of? It's made up of multiple things. If you could just look at this specific slide, you could see that it tells you how the information is gathered. It tells you that what are the modern day cost accounting techniques that you have to use. It tells you that how the decisions are taken in the real life. It tells you how you plan forward, how you manage, how you control your performance. It tells you that how you evaluate the performance also. So all of these aspects are covered up in this specific performance management syllabus. Now, as a student, you would have a question in your mind that how to prepare for this performance management. So I would tell you that what is more important is conceptual understanding plus the practice. The conceptual understanding plus the practice, these are the two important aspects that you need to cover up if you have to go about passing this paper. So that's all about the paper, the introduction to the paper. If anyone has got any questions, if anyone has got any issues, you may ask, or else I'm going to move forward to a topic now.